was unhurt and came home. But his stories about himself stopped at the death of Grandpa Coulter. He would tell our children the stories of his childhood, mostly of the things he and Tom had done. They did a lot of things, and saw and went through a lot of things, some funny and some sad enough. All I know of Tom Coulter, I know of him as a boy in those stories Nathan told. Of Tom as a grown young man, as a soldier killed in the war far from Port William and forever gone, nobody spoke. I knew they didn't speak of him as they last knew him, living and so near his death, because they couldn't. And I understood why. They had got into the habit of silence because for too long after he died, they couldn't talk about him without weeping out loud. And so he lives on now in my mind as a boy in old stories told to children. Of Nathan himself, from the time when he and Tom roved about and played and worked together as boys, until after the war, when I turned aside from grief for the husband I had, who also was lost in the war and finally could love Nathan and marry him, I know, beyond what I have learned to imagine, almost nothing. He was, anyhow, a quiet man who never had much extra to say. He had stories enough about Burley and Big Alice and Tall Proudfoot and others, mostly funny. But about himself, about the coming of the war and his time in it, though he would say something occasionally, not much, not often, he told no stories. If the subject came up, he was apt to say, "Ignorant boys killing each other," or something else about that sort. And then, looking away, he would shake his head and say no more. Over the years, I heard him say enough to know he didn't like the power of some people to say whether other people will live or die. He didn't like the idea of killing women and old men and children, or of destroying the world in order to kill people, or of great machines made only to kill people. What he did and what happened to him in the war, I don't know. While he was alive, I couldn't ask him. After he was dead, I learned what I could, and more than I could easily bear to know, about the Battle of Okinawa, where he fought. His story after the war, and especially after 1948, I know because it is my story, too. It is our story, for I lived it with him. It is the story of our place in our time. Our farm of 150 acres, more or less, as the deed says, on the ridges and slopes above the creek known as Sand Ripple that runs down from Port William to the river. Nathan bought it in that year of 1948, hoping I would marry him, or in case I would, thinking he would need a place of his own to take me to. Our story is the story of our place, how we married and came here, moved into this old house and made it livable again while we lived in it, how we raised our children here and worked and hoped and paid the mortgage and made a pretty good farm of a place that had been hard used and then almost forgotten, how we continued making our life here day by day after the children were gone, how we kept this place alive and plentiful, seeing it always as a place beyond the war. Nathan seeing it, as I now think, as if from inside a fire. How we got old, and Nathan died. And I have remained on for yet a little while to see how such lives as ours and such a place may fare in a bad time. This is the story of my life, that while I lived it, weighed upon me and pressed against me and filled all my senses to overflowing, and now is like a dream dreamed. So close to the end now, what do I look forward to? Today shalt thou be with me in paradise.